"Who gave you that bruise?" Damian Cross asked the question so quietly that every man outside his study stopped breathing. Evelyn Parker had spent 2 years inside Blackwater House learning how to disappear. She scrubbed blood from marble floors, avoided dangerous eyes, and buried her fear beneath a servant's silence. But tonight, beneath the gold light of his desk lamp, Rhode Island's most feared crime boss saw the purple mark along her jaw. And something inside him broke. This is not simply a story about a powerful man protecting a helpless woman. It is about the terrifying moment protection becomes possession, safety becomes a cage, and a woman who survived by staying invisible is finally forced to choose who she wants to become. Stay until the end. One Bruise is about to start a war, like the video and comment where you are watching from. One Bruise was about to start a war. But 48 hours earlier, Evelyn Parker was still doing everything she could to make certain no one noticed she existed. Blackwater House stood on a cliff outside Newport, Rhode Island, where the Atlantic struck the rocks with enough force to shake the glass in its oldest windows. From the coastal road, the estate looked like something built for old money and summer parties. Gray stone walls rose behind rows of black iron fencing. Ivy climbed the eastern tower. Pale lights glowed behind tall windows facing the ocean. Visitors saw elegance. Evelyn saw cameras hidden beneath the roofline reinforced doors disguised as carved oak and armed men patrolling paths where gardeners once pushed wheelbarrows. The mansion had been designed to impress people before the Cross family turned it into a fortress. Everyone who worked there learned the difference quickly. Guests entered through a circular drive lined with white hydrangeas. Employees came through a steel door beneath the north wing. The family ate beneath crystal chandeliers. The staff swallowed hurried meals in a basement cafeteria that smelled of boiled vegetables and bleach. The upper floors carried perfumed cigar smoke and polished wood. Below ground, the air tasted like pipes and old rain. Evelyn knew both worlds without belonging to either one. She had worked at Blackwater House for 1 year, 10 months, and 12 days. Long enough to recognize the sound of every important person approaching. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore moved with the sharp rhythm of hard heels and disapproval. Cole Mercer, the head of security, walked slowly because a man his size never needed to hurry. Victor Shaw made almost no sound at all, which was fitting for someone who handled problems before most people knew they existed. Damian Cross was different. The house reacted before he arrived. Conversations lowered. Shoulders straightened. Men checked their jackets and women checked their work. Even people who had known him for years seemed to feel a change in the air when he entered a room. Evelyn had seen him fewer than a dozen times. That was not an accident. Her job was to clean the places the family had already left. She entered bedrooms after the doors had closed behind their occupants. She polished dining tables after the final glass had been removed. She scrubbed dark stains from marble without asking whether they came from wine blood or something no one had bothered to name. At Blackwater House, questions were more dangerous than dirt. Evelyn had survived by understanding that. She did not stare at cars arriving after midnight. She did not listen when men argued behind locked doors. She did not remember faces unless the face belonged to someone who could give her an order. She kept her eyes lowered, her hands moving and her thoughts hidden. Being invisible was not humiliation. It was armor. That evening, she stood in the narrow room assigned to her beneath the north wing and counted the money in her pay envelope for the 3rd time. $900. The estate paid more than any hotel or private residence in Newport. It also paid in cash, asked no questions about references, and expected its employees to forget anything unusual before leaving the property. Evelyn placed $750 inside a plain white envelope. The remaining bills went into the metal box beneath her bed. Rent was not an expense. Her room came with the job. Meals came from the staff kitchen. Her uniforms were deducted from her wages, but she repaired them herself so she would not need replacements. Most weeks she allowed herself $20 for anything that was not necessary. That week she had spent $9 on concealer and $6 on aspirin. She folded the last $5 bill and pressed it into the pocket of her winter coat. The coat had belonged to her mother. It was too large at the shoulders and thin at the elbows, but it still carried the faintest trace of the lavender soap her mother once used. Evelyn knew the scent was probably imagined. Her mother had been dead for 6 years. Some memories survived because they were true. Others survived because a person needed them to be. She lowered herself onto the edge of the narrow bed. The mattress dipped beneath her weight. Pipes knocked behind the wall as hot water moved through the building. Somewhere down the corridor, a dryer door slammed shut. Evelyn opened the top drawer of her nightstand. Inside was a photograph of Noah at his high school graduation. His hair was too long, his tie was crooked, and he was smiling with the careless confidence of someone who still believed adulthood meant freedom. Beside the photograph sat a stack of receipts. Each one carried a date and amount and the initials of a man named Howard Barlow. Her father had once promised Evelyn that his gambling was under control. He made that promise in their kitchen while her mother was dying upstairs. He made it again after pawning her jewelry. He made it one final time 3 days before his body was found in a motel room outside Providence, his wallet empty, and a betting slip folded in his shirt pocket. The legal debts died with him. The others did not. The Barlow crew arrived at Evelyn's apartment after the funeral. 2 men in clean coats sat at her small dining table and explained that her father owed $82,000. Evelyn told them the debt was not hers. One of the men smiled. Then he placed Noah's school schedule on the table. That was the day Evelyn stopped asking what was fair. Her phone vibrated against the blanket. Noah's name appeared on the screen. Evelyn answered immediately. "You're supposed to be at work. I am at work." His voice was half buried beneath the metallic sounds of the garage. Air tools screamed somewhere behind him. A man shouted for a socket wrench. Evelyn leaned against the wall. "Then why are you calling? There's a car across the street." Her fingers tightened around the phone. "What kind of car? Black sedan. Tinted windows. Lots of people drive black sedans. It's been there since Monday." Evelyn stared at the white envelope on her lap. "Have you seen anyone get out? No. Then it could belong to someone in the building. It moves every night and comes back before lunch." Noah lowered his voice. "You know what this is." Evelyn looked toward her closed door as though someone might already be listening from the corridor. "Go straight home after work. Evie, no stops, no drinks with Jason. Do not walk. You always tell me what to do, but you never explain anything. I'm explaining now. Know you're giving orders." His anger was familiar. It had grown stronger over the past year as Noah began to understand that his sister's protection felt a great deal like control. Evelyn hated that resemblance. She closed her eyes. "Please." The single word changed his breathing. "What happened?" "Nothing happened. You only say please when something happened." Evelyn looked at their graduation photograph. The boy in it had once believed their father was a misunderstood dreamer. Evelyn had never told him about the men at the funeral. She had never shown him the payment receipts. She had never explained why she left Providence to work in a house owned by criminals. She had wanted one member of the Parker family to sleep without listening for footsteps outside the door. "I need you to trust me." Noah was silent for several seconds. Then he said, "It was Dad's debt." Evelyn's chest tightened. "Who told you I'm not stupid? I never said you were. I found one of the receipts in your coat last Christmas." She pressed her thumb against her forehead. "You should have asked me. You would have lied." That was true. The truth sat between them cold and undeniable. Noah continued, "You can't keep paying forever. I can keep paying until they leave you alone. They won't leave either of us alone. They will if I finish. With what money, I have a good job. You clean a mobster's house." His voice broke slightly on the last word. Evelyn lowered hers. "Do not say that over the phone. You think they're listening? I think you should stop talking. Come home." The request was soft now. She could picture him standing beside an open engine grease across his hands, trying to sound older than 20. "We can figure something out." Evelyn looked around her room. A twin bed, a particle board dresser, a metal radiator that hissed through the winter, 2 uniforms hanging from hooks on the wall. She had spent almost 2 years inside a fortress because the people who owned it were more frightening than the men collecting her father's debt. That was the bargain. Fear could protect a person if she stood close enough to the right monster. "I can't come home yet." Why? "Because I'm close." It was another lie. At her current payment rate, she would be 30 before the principal disappeared. The interest changed whenever Howard Barlow wanted it to change. Noah knew that too. Evie. A bell rang in the corridor, signaling the start of the evening shift. Evelyn stood. "I have to go. Just tell me you're safe." She opened her mouth. The word would not come. Instead, she said, "Go straight home." Then she ended the call. For a moment, the room felt smaller than usual. Evelyn placed the payment envelope inside her coat and locked the metal box beneath her bed. She washed her face at the small sink and tied her dark hair into a low knot. The mirror above the basin was cracked through the center. Her reflection appeared divided. On one side, she looked 23. On the other, she looked exhausted enough to be twice that age. She buttoned the collar of her black uniform, tied a white apron around her waist, and left the room. The service corridors were already alive. Laundry carts moved toward the lifts. Kitchen workers carried crates of wine toward the pantry. 2 gardeners stamped rainwater from their boots beside the rear entrance. Mrs. Whitmore stood at the center of it all with a clipboard pressed against her chest. She was 60 years old, tall, silver-haired, and severe enough to make grown men apologize for breathing too loudly. "Parker," Evelyn stopped. "Yes, Mrs. Whitmore. The west guest rooms need fresh linen. The library requires dusting. Mr. Cross has visitors arriving after 9, so the eastern hall is restricted." "Yes, ma'am." "And keep the service yard clear." "I will." "Mrs." Whitmore's eyes moved briefly over Evelyn's face. "You look pale." "I'm fine. Fine people are rarely useful." Evelyn lowered her eyes. "I'll work faster." Mrs. Whitmore gave a short nod and turned toward the kitchen. Evelyn followed the other maids upstairs. Blackwater House was quieter than usual, though not calmer. Men in dark suits stood near the formal dining room. 2 unfamiliar vehicles waited in the circular drive. Cole Mercer spoke into an earpiece beside the main staircase, his expression carved from stone. Something important was happening. Evelyn did not need to know what. She carried folded sheets into the west wing and began making beds. Every guest room was larger than the apartment where she and Noah had grown up. Fireplaces stood beneath carved mantels. Velvet curtains framed windows overlooking the water. Fresh flowers were replaced every morning, even when no one stayed in the rooms. Evelyn worked quickly. Pull the sheet tight. Smooth the corner. Replace the towels. Empty the ashtray. Forget the blood on the cuff of the shirt abandoned beside the bed. By 8, the rain had grown violent. Wind moved around the stone walls with a low, mournful sound. Water struck the windows hard enough to make the glass tremble. Evelyn was carrying a stack of clean towels past the kitchen when a man laughed near the servants' entrance. The sound was too loud for the house. She looked up before remembering not to. Tyler Cross stood beside the pantry doors. He was Damian's cousin, though the resemblance ended with dark hair and expensive clothing. Damian wore control like a second skin. Tyler wore privilege like a weapon. His navy suit had once been perfectly tailored. Now the collar was open, the shirt wrinkled, and one sleeve stained with whiskey. A half-empty glass hung from his hand. The staff moved around him carefully. A young kitchen assistant tried to pass with a tray of glasses. Tyler stepped into his path. "What's your name?" The boy swallowed. "Daniel, sir." "Daniel what, Daniel Ruiz?" Tyler lifted one of the glasses from the tray. "Do you know what this is worth, Daniel Ruiz?" "No, sir." "More than your monthly salary." He let the glass fall. It shattered across the stone floor. The boy flinched. Tyler smiled. "Clean it up." Daniel lowered the tray and knelt. Mrs. Whitmore appeared from the pantry. "Mr. Cross' dinner is being served in the west room." Tyler looked at her. "I know where dinner is served. Then the staff will continue its work." For a moment, neither of them moved. Mrs. Whitmore was only a housekeeper, but she had worked for the Cross family before Tyler learned to tie his shoes. She knew how far she could push. Tyler finally looked away. His gaze settled on Evelyn. She immediately lowered her eyes and continued walking. "Who is that?" Mrs. Whitmore answered without turning. "Evelyn Parker." Tyler watched her pass. "Knew nearly 2 years. Never noticed her. That means she does her job well." Evelyn felt his attention between her shoulder blades. She did not look back. In the linen room, she placed the towels on a shelf and stood still until her heartbeat slowed. A woman named Maria entered with an empty cart. "You all right?" "Yes." Maria glanced toward the corridor. "He's been drinking since he arrived." Evelyn reached for another stack of sheets. "That has nothing to do with us. It does when men like him get bored." Evelyn met Maria's eyes for a second. Then she returned to work. "Do not give him a reason to remember you." Maria gave a humorless laugh. "You say that like we get to choose." At 10:30, most of the family had moved into the western dining room. The kitchen was loud with pans, orders, and the hiss of steam. Evelyn stayed close to the service areas. She polished silver in the pantry. She folded napkins. She carried empty bottles to storage. At 11:15, the head cook tied off a large black trash bag and pointed toward the back door. Incinerator. Evelyn looked outside. Rainwater ran down the glass in silver sheets. "I'll take it." She pulled on an old waterproof coat and lifted the bag. It was heavier than expected. The rear service door opened against the wind with a groan. Cold rain struck her face immediately. The service yard stretched between the kitchen wing and the garage. Floodlights cast long shadows across wet stone. Beyond the garage, the incinerator stood beside a brick wall darkened by years of weather. Evelyn lowered her head and walked quickly. The bag dragged against her leg. Water entered one boot before she reached the metal bin. She lifted the lid, shoved the bag inside, and wiped rain from her eyes. Then a man spoke from beneath the garage overhang. "You people really do move like ghosts." Evelyn went still. Tyler stepped into the light. His jacket was gone. His white shirt clung damply to his shoulders. He held a fresh glass of bourbon, though his hand was no longer steady enough to keep the liquid from spilling. Evelyn positioned herself several feet away. "Excuse me, Mr. Cross." She turned toward the house. "Stop." Her body obeyed before her mind could argue. Tyler walked closer. "Do you always run away when someone speaks to you? I need to return to the kitchen. I did not ask what you needed." Evelyn kept her eyes on the ground. Rain struck the pavement between them. Tyler moved into her path. "Look at me." She did not. His shoes stopped inches from hers. "I said, look at me." Slowly, Evelyn raised her eyes. Tyler smiled as though he had won something. "There you are." She smelled whiskey before he touched her. His fingers closed around her chin. The pressure was immediate. Evelyn's breath caught. "You always look this miserable. Please let me return to work." That was not an answer. His thumb pressed into her cheek. "You should smile more." Evelyn remained still. Men like Tyler often mistook fear for obedience and silence for invitation. She knew better than to pull away too quickly. "Mrs. Whitmore is waiting for me." Tyler's smile disappeared. "You think that old woman protects you? No, sir. You think my cousin does?" Evelyn's pulse stumbled. "I have never spoken to Mr. Cross." Tyler leaned closer. "Damian doesn't speak to furniture either." His breath touched her face. "But furniture doesn't look at him like it wants to be rescued." "I don't." The answer escaped before she could stop it. Tyler's grip tightened. "What did you say?" Evelyn felt his fingers digging into the soft skin beneath her jaw. "I said no one is waiting to rescue me." For 1 second, something uncertain moved in Tyler's expression. Then humiliation turned it ugly. "Do not tell me what men see when they look at you." He shoved her face aside. Evelyn took a step back. Her heels slid on the wet pavement. She regained her balance and moved toward the door. Tyler caught her wrist. Pain shot up her arm. "I did not say you could leave. Let go of me." The words were quiet, but they were clear. Tyler stared at her. The rain ran through his hair and down his face. "You forget where you are." "No." Evelyn looked at his hand around her wrist. "I know exactly where I am." That made him angrier. He pulled her toward him, but she twisted instinctively, trying to free her arm. Tyler shoved her. There was no warning. One moment she was standing. The next, her boots lost the stone beneath them. Her shoulder struck the brick wall first. Then the left side of her face hit the corner beside the service door. White light exploded behind her eyes. The world disappeared into a high ringing sound. She fell hard onto the wet ground. For several seconds, Evelyn could not move. Rain hit her cheek. Pain spread from her jaw into her teeth. Warm blood filled her mouth where she had bitten through the inside of her lip. Tyler stood above her. The glass in his hand was empty now. His expression held a flicker of alarm. He looked toward the kitchen door, then back at Evelyn. He could have helped her. He could have apologized. Instead, he straightened his shirt. "You should watch where you're going." Evelyn stared up at him through the rain. Tyler took a cigarette from his pocket, lit it beneath the shelter of his hand, and inhaled. He dropped the burning match beside her. Then he walked inside. The door closed. The service yard became empty again. Evelyn remained on the ground until the ringing in her ears softened. She touched her cheek. Pain flashed beneath her fingers. When she pulled her hand away, there was blood on it. She looked toward the security camera above the garage. Its lens pointed toward the vehicle entrance, not the service wall. No witness, no record, only her word against the name Cross. Evelyn pushed herself onto her knees. Her stomach rolled. She swallowed blood and waited until the nausea passed. Then she found Tyler's cigarette near the wall, crushed it beneath her boot, and threw it into the incinerator. Inside the kitchen, no one noticed when she returned. Steam clouded the windows. Pans struck metal counters. A chef shouted about a ruined sauce. Evelyn removed her wet coat and hung it beside the door. Mrs. Whitmore appeared as she untied her apron. "What happened to your uniform?" I slipped. The older woman's eyes moved to the redness forming along Evelyn's cheek. "Where outside?" Mrs. Whitmore looked toward the service door. Her gaze remained there for a fraction too long. "Did anyone see you know?" It was the wrong question. They both knew it. Mrs. Whitmore handed her a clean apron. "Change before someone important notices." Evelyn took it. "Yes, ma'am." She worked until 1 in the morning. She polished serving trays with a jaw that throbbed every time she swallowed. She wiped counters while her wrist darkened beneath her sleeve. She carried folded napkins into the dining room after the Cross family had gone. On the way back, she passed Damian at the far end of the hall. He stood beside Victor Shaw, listening as the older man spoke quietly. Damian wore a black suit. His posture was still his attention absolute. Evelyn turned her injured side toward the wall and lowered her face. She moved past before either man looked in her direction. By morning, the swelling had begun. By the following evening, the bruise had spread from her cheekbone toward her jaw in shades of purple, blue, and black. Evelyn stood before the cracked mirror in her room and pressed concealer over it. The makeup collected in the swollen skin. She looked worse. She wiped it away and tried again. Hair down, she whispered. Her fingers trembled as she loosened the knot. Dark strands fell over the left side of her face. She avoided the kitchen during busy hours. She volunteered to clean empty rooms. She ate standing in the laundry corridor where no one would ask questions. For most of the day, it worked. At 10:50 that night, Mrs. Whitmore found her polishing silver in the pantry. Parker. Evelyn turned her right side toward the doorway. "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Whitmore held a tray containing black coffee and a red leather ledger. "Take this to Mr. Cross's study." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "Maria can take it. Maria is serving the west room. I can finish the lower hall." Mrs. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. That was not a request. Evelyn looked at the tray. The porcelain cup seemed impossibly fragile. "Mrs. Whitmore, I don't think I should go upstairs tonight." The older woman finally studied her. "Turn around." Evelyn did not move. "Evelyn." Slowly she faced her. Mrs. Whitmore reached up and pushed the hair away from Evelyn's cheek. Her fingers stopped. For the first time since Evelyn had known her, the housekeeper's expression lost all discipline. "Who did this?" Evelyn said nothing. Mrs. Whitmore looked toward the small camera above the pantry door. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. "Was it someone in this house?" Evelyn lowered her eyes. That was enough. Mrs. Whitmore closed them briefly. Then she placed the tray into Evelyn's hands. "Keep your left side away from the desk." Evelyn stared at her. "You still want me to go? I want you to survive the night." The answer carried more fear than cruelty. Mrs. Whitmore stepped back. "He has been waiting for 5 minutes." Evelyn wrapped both hands around the silver tray. The coffee trembled in its cup. She left the pantry and entered the eastern corridor. The carpets grew thicker as she approached Damian's private wing. The sounds of the kitchen disappeared behind her. Portraits of dead Cross men watched from dark walls, their painted eyes following her through the silence. 2 guards stood outside the study. One opened the door. Warm light spilled across the floor. Evelyn lowered her head, turned the bruised side of her face toward the shadows, and stepped inside. Damian Cross did not look up from his desk. Set it on the right. Evelyn crossed the study with the silver tray balanced between both hands. The fire behind Damian Cross sent restless shadows across the walls. Shelves of dark leather books rose toward the ceiling, and the windows beyond his desk reflected nothing but rain and black ocean. She placed the coffee beside his hand. Not a drop touched the saucer. "Open the red ledger," Damian said. Evelyn's fingers tightened beneath the tray. The ledger, Evelyn. She set the tray down and reached for the book. Her hair had stayed over the left side of her face during the entire walk upstairs. She had measured every movement before entering the room. Turn right, lower the tray, keep her chin down, leave before the light found her. Then one strand caught against the collar of her uniform. As she leaned over the desk, her hair slipped back. The brass lamp illuminated the bruise. Damian reached for his coffee. His hand stopped. Evelyn felt the silence before she understood it. The scratch of his pen was gone. The fire cracked once sharp and lonely, then settled into a low hiss. She closed the ledger too quickly. "I'm sorry, sir." She stepped back. Damian looked at her face. Not at her uniform. Not at the ledger. Not through her as every important man in the house had done for nearly 2 years. At her. "Stop." Evelyn froze. Damian placed the pen beside the ledger. He aligned it with the edge of the leather cover, then pushed his chair back and stood. He came around the desk without hurry. Damian was not the loudest man in Blackwater House. He never needed to be. His stillness controlled rooms more completely than shouting ever could. He stopped in front of Evelyn. "Look at me." Her eyes remained fixed on the knot of his tie. "Mr. Cross, the kitchen is waiting for the tray. The kitchen can wait." His voice lowered. "Look at me." Evelyn raised her head. Damian's gaze moved across the purple swelling beneath her eye, the dark mark along her jaw, and the thin cut at the corner of her mouth. A muscle jumped beside his cheek. He lifted one hand. Evelyn flinched. Her shoulders rose, her eyes closed, her body prepared for a blow before she could stop it. Nothing touched her. When she opened her eyes, Damian's hand remained suspended between them. His expression had changed. The anger in his face was no longer cold. It was alive now, stripped of calculation and sharpened by something that looked almost personal. He lowered his hand slowly. "Who gave you that bruise?" Evelyn swallowed. "I fell." Damian stared at her. Where the service stairs? Which flight? Her thoughts scattered. The north stairs. The north stairs are carpeted. Evelyn looked away. "I struck the wall." Damian moved closer, but he did not touch her. "The walls beside those stairs are smooth plaster." She said nothing. His eyes dropped to her right wrist. The sleeve had pulled back, exposing the fading marks around it. "Someone held you." "No. Someone's fingers were around your wrist. I caught it on a door." Damian's jaw tightened. "You have given me 3 different accidents in less than a minute." Evelyn's breathing became shallow. He raised his hand again, slower this time. His fingers hovered near the swollen edge of her cheek. He traced the shape of the bruise without making contact. This came from brick. Evelyn stared at the buttons of his shirt. "I know what violence looks like." His voice was almost gentle now. "That is why lying to me will not protect you." Evelyn felt the room closing around her. If she named Tyler, she might lose her job. If she lost the job, the payment stopped. If the payment stopped, the black sedan across from Noah's garage would not remain parked for long. Damian watched the fear move through her. "What are you more afraid of than the person who did this?" Her eyes burned. "I need this position. That does not answer me. If I tell you, I'll be dismissed. By whom? Your family." Damian's expression hardened. "You believe someone in my family did this?" Evelyn realized too late what she had admitted. She backed away. "I should not have said that. You said enough." "Please, Mr. Cross." The word came out broken. Damian's gaze held hers. "You will not lose your job. You cannot know that. I own this house. That does not mean you control every person in it." Something dark moved behind his eyes. "You are correct." He took one step closer. "I control what happens to them afterward." A tear slipped down Evelyn's uninjured cheek. She hated it immediately. Damian reached up and caught it with his thumb. His skin was warm and rough. The touch lasted only a second, but it felt more dangerous than Tyler's grip, because Evelyn did not understand it. Damian lowered his hand. "Give me the name." She closed her eyes. Rain struck the windows. She saw Tyler beneath the garage light. His wet shirt, the bourbon glass. The moment surprise crossed his face after she hit the wall, followed by the decision to leave her there. Tyler. The name barely reached the space between them. Damian did not move. Evelyn forced herself to continue. "Tyler Cross. My cousin." It was not a question. He was drunk. Damian's face emptied of expression. Evelyn rushed to fill the silence. He only pushed me. I slipped because the stones were wet. He did not mean for me to hit the wall. Stop. The word struck harder than a shout. Evelyn closed her mouth. Damian turned away and walked toward the fireplace. He picked up the untouched coffee and poured it over the burning logs. The liquid hissed against the flames. White steam rose between him and the mantel. Return to your room. Evelyn gripped her apron. I still have work. You are relieved for 3 days. I cannot miss 3 days of pay. You will be paid. She stared at him. No one is paid for staying in bed. You are now. He placed the empty cup on the mantel. Lock your door tonight. The command chilled her. Is Tyler coming back? Damian looked over his shoulder. No. The certainty in his voice was worse than reassurance. He will never come near you again. Evelyn glanced toward the study doors. Mr. Cross, I did not ask you to hurt him. You did not ask him to hurt you. That is not the same thing. To me it is. He returned to his desk and lifted the telephone receiver. Go. Evelyn moved toward the doors. Her hand had almost reached the brass handle when Damian spoke again. Evelyn. She turned. His face was calm once more. That frightened her most. You will not hide an injury from me again. She wanted to tell him that her body did not belong to his house. Instead, she whispered, Yes, sir. The guards opened the doors. Evelyn stepped into the corridor. Before the heavy wood closed behind her, she heard Damian rotate the dial. Cole. A pause followed. Fine, Tyler. The opening narrowed. Take him to the cold storage building near the Providence docks. Evelyn stopped walking. One of the guards looked at her without expression. Damian's voice reached her through the final inches of open space. Keep him conscious until I arrive. The door shut. Evelyn returned to the basement with her hands pressed against her stomach. Mrs. Whitmore waited outside the staff corridor. You told him. Evelyn did not answer. The older woman looked at her face, then toward the ceiling as if she could see Damian moving through the floors above them. Go to your room. He gave me 3 days. Mrs. Whitmore's lips pressed into a pale line. Then take them. Do you know what he'll do? No. The answer came too quickly. Evelyn unlocked her door. Mrs. Whitmore caught her arm before she went inside. Whatever happens to Tyler was decided by Tyler long before you spoke his name. Evelyn pulled free. That does not make me feel better. It was not meant to. She closed the door and turned the lock. For the rest of the night, she sat on the edge of her bed and listened. Every footstep in the corridor sounded like Tyler. Every voice behind the walls seemed to say her name. She pictured him entering the basement with blood on his shirt and Damian's anger behind him. She pictured Mrs. Whitmore arriving with a trash bag and telling her to pack. She pictured Cole Mercer opening the door and taking her somewhere no employee returned from. Nothing happened. Morning came gray and silent. The breakfast bell rang above her. Carts rolled through the corridor. Pipes groaned behind the wall. No one knocked. That afternoon, Evelyn called Noah. He answered from the garage. The sedan is gone. Relief moved through her so quickly that she became dizzy. Are you sure hasn't been here all day? Go home anyway. You sound strange. I'm tired. Did something happen at that house? Evelyn touched the bruise. No, another lie. She ended the call before he could hear it. The knock came the following morning. 3 firm strikes against the door. Evelyn stood too quickly and nearly stumbled. Who is it, Dr. Benjamin Rhodes? She did not recognize the voice. Another man spoke from the corridor. Open the door, Miss Parker. Cole Mercer. Evelyn slid the lock back. Dr. Rhodes stood outside in a charcoal suit carrying a black leather medical case. His silver hair was combed away from a narrow face. Wire-framed glasses rested on his nose. Cole filled the corridor behind him. May I come in? The doctor asked. Evelyn stepped aside. The room seemed even smaller with both men inside. Dr. Rhodes placed his case on the dresser and opened it. I cannot pay you. Payment has been handled. By Mr. Cross. The doctor removed a penlight. Sit, please. Evelyn sat on the bed. He examined her eyes, jaw, cheek, and wrist. His touch was careful and impersonal. No fracture, he said. No sign of concussion. You have significant swelling and soft tissue damage. He pressed near her cheekbone. Pain shot through her face. Evelyn hissed. Sorry. He opened his case again and removed 2 bottles and a jar of ointment. Take 1 tablet with food. Apply this twice a day. Use ice for 20 minutes at a time. Evelyn looked at the labels. These are expensive. Dr. Rhodes closed the case. So was my visit. She looked up. Does Mr. Cross normally send you to treat employees? The doctor paused. Cole's expression did not change. Dr. Rhodes removed his glasses and cleaned them with a white cloth. Mr. Cross does not normally send me to the staff quarters. What does that mean? It means you should follow my instructions. He put his glasses back on. That is all I can tell you. After they left, Evelyn stared at the medicine on her dresser. She did not feel cared for. She felt marked. By evening, rumors had reached the basement. Tyler's apartment in Boston had been emptied. His car had been removed from the estate. One of the drivers claimed he had been sent overseas. A kitchen worker said Tyler had boarded no plane. Someone from security whispered about blood inside an old warehouse near the docks. No one spoke loudly. No one used Damian's name. Evelyn pressed an ice pack to her face until the skin went numb. She had wanted Tyler to leave her alone. She had not wanted to become the reason he disappeared. On the 4th morning, she put on her uniform. The bruise had faded at the edges, shifting from black to yellow and green. It still covered most of her left cheek. When Evelyn entered the main kitchen, the noise stopped. Knives paused above cutting boards. A cook froze beside an open oven. 2 maids looked at her and immediately lowered their eyes. Mrs. Whitmore emerged from the pantry. You are on light duty. I can work normally. You will dust the library and the ground floor sitting rooms. I do not need special treatment. Mrs. Whitmore handed her a silver feather duster. This is not for you. Evelyn looked around the kitchen. No one met her eyes. It is for everyone else, Mrs. Whitmore said. The meaning followed Evelyn into the library. She was no longer invisible. She was a warning. She had nearly finished the eastern shelves when the double doors opened behind her. The room seemed to tighten. You are working. Damian's voice moved through the silence. Evelyn turned. He wore a dark 3-piece suit, his expression unreadable. Mrs. Whitmore assigned light duty. Damian closed the doors. He crossed the carpet and stopped in front of her. His gaze settled on the fading bruise. Rhodes said you would recover. I will. Are you still in pain? No. You are still a poor liar. Evelyn placed the duster on the table. What did you do to Tyler? I removed him. From the house, from your life. That is not an answer. It is the answer you are receiving. Her fear became anger. You cannot destroy people because they hurt someone who works for you. Damian's eyes darkened. I can destroy people for far less. I never asked for that. No, he moved closer. You asked to keep your job. Evelyn held her ground. And you have it. He reached inside his jacket and placed a folded document on the table. She recognized Howard Barlow's name at the top. Her hands went cold. What is that, your father's debt? Evelyn stared at the stamped word across the final page. Paid? No. The balance is 0. You paid $82,000. I purchased the obligation. Why? Because men outside my house were using it to control someone inside my house. I am not yours. Damian looked at her for a long moment. No, he said quietly. Not yet. Evelyn stepped back. I cannot repay you. I did not ask for repayment. Then what do you want? His gaze held hers. Your belongings are being moved upstairs. Upstairs were the 3rd floor, the private family level. Evelyn shook her head. I have a room. You have a box beside a boiler. It is mine. It belongs to me. The words entered the space between them with terrible simplicity. Evelyn looked toward the doors. This is a cage. Damian did not deny it. It is a place no one can enter without my permission. That makes it a cage. He stepped close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. It also makes it safe. The doors opened. Cole waited in the corridor. Damian picked up the feather duster and placed it on the table behind her. You will not need that again. Evelyn walked past him without answering. Cole led her toward the private elevator. He inserted a silver key into the control panel. The doors closed. As the elevator began to rise, Evelyn watched the lower floors disappear one by one. Her father's debt was gone. Tyler was gone. The life she understood vanished beneath her, and the doors opened onto a world where safety had already begun to feel like ownership. The elevator doors opened onto silence. Not the ordinary quiet of a sleeping house. This silence felt arranged. The private floor stretched before Evelyn in a long corridor of dark walnut and muted silk walls. Soft lamps burned inside brass sconces. No cart stood near the doors. No voices drifted from adjoining rooms. No footsteps rushed to meet a schedule. The third floor did not belong to the machinery of Blackwater House. It belonged to the people the machinery served. Cole stepped out first. Evelyn remained inside the elevator. He glanced back at her. "This way, Miss Parker." She looked at the silver key still resting in the control panel. "Can anyone come up here? Only people Mr. Cross authorizes. And if I want to go down," Cole removed the key. "You call me. That was not what I asked." His expression remained neutral, but discomfort entered his eyes. "The elevator does not operate without a key." Evelyn stepped into the corridor. "So I cannot leave this floor alone. You can use the eastern stairs. Are they locked?" Cole paused. "From this side, no. From below?" "Yes." Evelyn looked toward the end of the hall. The walls were beautiful. The carpet was thick enough to erase her footsteps. A vase of white roses stood on a narrow table beneath an oil painting of the Atlantic. Nothing looked like a prison. That was what made it one. Cole led her to a pair of dark wooden doors. He opened them and stepped aside. The room beyond was larger than the entire apartment where Evelyn and Noah had grown up. Tall windows overlooked the ocean. A fire burned inside a white stone fireplace. A wide bed stood beneath a carved headboard covered in charcoal linen and pale blankets. A sitting area occupied one side of the room. On the other stood a writing desk, a bookcase, and a telephone. Her old suitcase waited beside the bed. Everything she owned had fit inside it. Her 2 uniforms hung in an open wardrobe beside dresses she had never seen before. Evelyn crossed the room slowly. The dresses were arranged by color. Black, deep green, gray, cream. Beside them hung soft sweaters, trousers, and coats. Shoes lined the floor beneath them. She reached for the sleeve of a dark blue dress. The fabric moved like water between her fingers. There must be a mistake. Cole remained near the door. "No mistake. These are not mine. They were purchased for you. When I do not know." Evelyn pulled one dress from the wardrobe and held it against herself. It looked as though it would fit. Her stomach tightened. "Who gave them my measurements?" Cole said nothing. She turned toward him. "Did someone enter my room while I was sleeping?" "No." "Then how did they know Mrs. Whitmore provided the uniform records?" Evelyn returned the dress to the wardrobe. Of course there were records. Blackwater House recorded everything: her height, her shoe size, the date she began working, the amount deducted for each uniform, the number of times she had asked for aspirin from the staff cabinet. She looked toward the telephone. "Can I call my brother?" "Yes. Is the line monitored?" Cole hesitated. "That depends on the call." Evelyn faced him fully. "Is my call to Noah monitored? I have no reason to believe it is. That is not an answer. It is the only one I can give." She folded her arms. "Am I allowed to leave the room?" "Yes. The floor with an escort. The estate, with permission." The fire shifted behind her. Evelyn looked around the beautiful room again. A cage. Cole did not argue. He reached into his jacket and placed a small card on the desk. "My number. Call if you need anything. What if what I need is to leave his eyes met hers? Then call anyway." He closed the doors behind him. The lock did not turn. Evelyn stood alone. For several minutes, she listened to the room. The ocean struck the rocks below. Wind pressed softly against the windows. Firewood cracked in the hearth. She walked to the doors and opened them. Cole stood in the corridor. He had not moved. "You said I could leave the room. You can. With you behind me. I am assigned to this floor to protect me." "Yes." From whom Cole's expression did not change. "Anyone who believes Mr. Cross has given them a reason to reach you." Evelyn gripped the door. Did he give them a reason? People do not need reasons. They need opportunities. She closed the door again. At 7:30, Mrs. Whitmore arrived carrying a garment bag. Evelyn let her in. The older woman entered without looking around, though her eyes briefly paused on the wardrobe. "You are expected in the private dining room at 8. "I am not hungry. That has never prevented a Cross from serving dinner." Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed. "I am still an employee." Mrs. Whitmore removed a dark green dress from the garment bag, not according to the instructions delivered to my office. What do they say that you are no longer assigned to domestic labor? Then what am I assigned to? No position was listed. Mrs. Whitmore placed the dress beside Evelyn. The neckline was modest. The sleeves reached the wrists. It was elegant without appearing designed for display. That somehow made it worse. I am not wearing that. Mrs. Whitmore looked at Evelyn's black uniform. You are no longer permitted to wear staff clothing on the private floor. Permitted. His word, not mine. Evelyn stood. Did you tell him my measurements? Mrs. Whitmore's composure faltered for a moment. The uniform office keeps them. You gave him access. Mr. Cross does not need my permission to access his own records. He does not own my body because he owns the paper with my name on it. No. Mrs. Whitmore's voice softened. But he owns everything around it. Evelyn looked toward the windows. That is supposed to comfort me, no, Mrs. Whitmore adjusted the dress on the bed. It is supposed to keep you from mistaking comfort for freedom. The word surprised Evelyn. She turned back. Mrs. Whitmore met her eyes. You asked whether I knew what he would do to Tyler? Yes. I did not. Do you now know? The housekeeper's face remained stern, but exhaustion lived beneath it. I know only that Mr. Cross has never reacted to an injury among the staff this way. Why me? I cannot answer that. Can he? Mrs. Whitmore looked toward the closed doors. He can answer anything he chooses. That is not the same as telling the truth. No. Mrs. Whitmore moved toward the door. Dinner is at 8. I said I am not hungry. Mrs. Whitmore stopped. You are thinking of this as an invitation. She left. Evelyn stared at the dress until 7:50. Then she changed. Not because Damian had ordered it. Because she refused to enter his dining room wearing the uniform he had decided she no longer deserved to wear. The distinction was small. It was still hers. Cole led her through the corridor. The dining room sat at the opposite end of the private floor. Its doors stood open. Light from a long chandelier spilled across a table large enough for 20 people. Only 3 places had been set. Damian sat at the head. Victor Shaw occupied the chair to his right. He was in his late 40s, lean and sharp-faced with gray beginning at his temples. He wore a black suit without a tie. A narrow scar crossed one eyebrow. His eyes moved over Evelyn as she entered. He did not hide the calculation in them. Damian looked at her. For 1 second, the severe lines around his mouth eased. Then his expression became unreadable again. Sit. He indicated the chair to his left. Evelyn remained standing. I want to call Noah. You may call him after dinner. I want to call him now. Victor lifted his wine glass. Damian watched her. Is there a reason you believe he is in danger? There is always a reason. That is not an answer. Evelyn almost laughed. You seem to enjoy saying that. Victor lowered his glass. Damian's eyes darkened, but something close to amusement moved beneath the surface. Sit, Evelyn. She took the chair. The table was set with heavy silverware crystal glasses and plates edged in gold. Evelyn placed her raw hands in her lap. Victor noticed them. He noticed everything. A server entered carrying roasted lamb and vegetables. Another poured wine. Neither looked directly at Evelyn. When they left, Victor cut into his food. So this is the reason Tyler disappeared. Damian lifted his knife. Choose your next words carefully. Victor looked at Evelyn. $82,000 to purchase a dead gambler's debt. A private physician. A room on the family floor. He returned his attention to Damian. The Barlow crew believes you interfered with their business. They were charging illegal interest to a frightened woman. Victor's mouth tightened. We charge illegal interest to frightened people. Evelyn looked at Damian. He did not deny it. Victor continued. The concern is not morality. The concern is territory. Damian cut a piece of lamb. Howard Barlow sold the paper willingly. He sold because Cole stood behind his chair. Then he understood the value of the offer. Victor rested his knife beside his plate. He understands that you threatened him over a housemaid. Her name is Evelyn. Victor's gaze returned to her. Names do not change the problem. Evelyn spoke before Damian could. What is the problem? Victor seemed mildly surprised. You. Damian set down his fork. Victor did not look away from Evelyn. You were invisible 2 days ago. Now Tyler is gone. Barlow has lost a profitable debt, and every person in this house knows Damian Cross moved you into his private residence. I did not ask him to do any of that. It does not matter. It matters to me. Victor leaned back. Enemies rarely ask whether a weakness volunteered for the position. The room became colder. Damian's voice was quiet. Enough. Victor turned toward him. Is it yes? We have worked together for 17 years. I have seen men die because someone decided emotion was strategy. I did not confuse the two. Then tell me the strategy. Damian looked at Evelyn. She hated that he did. Victor followed his gaze and understood. That is what I thought. Damian's hand closed around his wine glass. When someone under my roof is attacked by a member of my family, I decide the consequence. Tyler was a liability. Then why are we discussing him? Because you did not remove him for drinking, gambling, or stealing from our accounts. You removed him for touching her. Damian's face became still. Victor continued carefully. The Barlows now know she matters. Our own people know she matters. By tomorrow, every crew from Providence to Boston will know. Evelyn's appetite disappeared. She looked at Damian. You said you made me safer. I did. Victor answered for him. Inside this house. Damian turned his head. Victor lifted one hand. You want the truth. There it is. He looked at Evelyn again. You are protected here because no one wants to face him. Outside these gates, you have become the easiest way to make him bleed. Damian stood. The movement was calm, but the servers near the wall immediately stepped backward. Leave. Victor remained seated. Damian, leave the table. Victor studied him for several seconds. Then he placed his napkin beside his plate and rose. At the doors, Damian spoke again. You will treat Evelyn with the same respect you show me. Victor glanced back. What position does she hold? Damian did not answer immediately. Evelyn did. None. Both men looked at her. She held Victor's gaze. I am not joining your organization. I am not asking for a title. I am not responsible for what he chose to do. Victor's expression changed slightly. Not respect. Not yet. But interest. That distinction will not matter to the Barlows. It matters to me. Victor nodded once. Then he left. The doors closed behind. Evelyn pushed her plate away. Damian resumed his seat. You should eat. You should stop deciding what I should do. You have barely eaten in 3 days. How do you know I know what happens in my house? She looked at him. That is the problem. Damian leaned back. Explain. You paid my debt without asking. You moved my belongings without asking. You replaced my clothes. You put a guard outside my door. I removed men who threatened your brother and replaced them with yourself. The word struck the room. Damian's expression did not change. Evelyn continued. The Barlows controlled me because I was afraid of what they would do to Noah. You control me because I am afraid of what will happen if I leave. I am keeping you alive. You are making me dependent. You were already dependent. Then you should understand why I hate it. The fire at the end of the room shifted. Damian looked at her hands. You scrubbed floors until the skin split because another man's debt owned your future. Yes, and now the debt is gone. But I do not know what replaced it. His eyes returned to hers. Nothing. I do not believe you. Why? Because men like you do not spend $82,000 for nothing. Damian's voice lowered. You believe you understand men like me. I understand transactions. This is not one. Then what is it? For the first time that evening, Damian looked uncertain. The expression vanished quickly, but Evelyn saw it. He reached for his glass. I saw an injury inside my house. I corrected the circumstances that allowed it. You corrected my entire life. It needed correction. Anger moved through her. You do not get to say that. Damian placed the glass down. You were living beside a boiler, feeding most of your wages to criminals and pretending bruises were accidents. That was my life. It was killing you. It was mine. Silence settled between them. Damian looked toward the windows. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. What do you want? The question caught Evelyn off guard. Freedom. That is not specific. She almost smiled despite herself. You want a list, I want terms. He spoke the word as if they were discussing a contract. Perhaps that was the only language he trusted. Evelyn sat straighter. My own telephone. There is one in your room, a line no one monitors. Damian considered it. Agreed. I speak to Noah whenever I want. Agreed. I can leave the estate with security. I decide when. With security. She stared at him. You cannot give up control for one sentence. No. At least you are honest. His eyes held hers. What else you knock before entering my room? I have not entered your room. You would. A faint shadow of amusement appeared. Agreed. You do not touch me without permission. The amusement disappeared. Damian's expression became unreadable. Evelyn's heart beat faster, but she did not look away. He had touched her tear, her hair, her injured face. Each gesture had been gentle. None had been invited. Agreed, he said. And I want to know whether Tyler is alive. Damian was silent. Is he? Yes. Relief came with shame. What did you do to him? I gave him enough time to understand that returning to Rhode Island would be fatal. You hurt him. Yes. The answer was immediate. Evelyn looked down at the untouched food. Do you regret it? No. She believed him. Damian folded his hands on the table. Your terms are accepted. All of them. You will have an unmonitored line by morning. Cole will escort you outside the estate when requested. He will not determine the destination unless there is an active threat. Evelyn searched his face. Why agree you asked for terms instead of begging for permission? That matters to you. Yes. Why? Because people who beg usually lie about what they want. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. Then she pulled her plate back and took one bite. Dinner did not become comfortable, but it became possible. The following morning, a second telephone appeared on Evelyn's desk. She called Noah. He answered on the second ring. Where have you been working? You missed 2 calls. I was sick. What kind of sick? Evelyn looked toward the mirror. The bruise had faded to green along the edges. I fell. The lie came automatically. She closed her eyes. No. Noah was silent. No, what I did not fall. Her hand tightened around the receiver. Someone at the house hurt me. Who it has been handled. Handled by who? Evelyn looked toward the closed bedroom doors. You do not need to know. That is what you always say. I know. Are you safe? Evelyn considered the question. Yes, it was true. She had never been more protected. She had also never been more watched. Noah exhaled. Come home. I cannot yet. Because of the debt is gone. Silence filled the line. What do you mean gone? Someone paid it. Who? Evelyn did not answer. Noah understood anyway. The man who owns that house. Yes, what does he want? I am trying to find out. For the next 2 weeks, Evelyn ate dinner with Damian every night. At first, their conversations lasted only minutes. He asked whether her face still hurt. She asked whether Tyler had left the country. He asked whether Noah had changed his route to work. She asked why men stood outside the study at all hours. Damian answered some questions. He ignored others. Evelyn learned that he drank coffee after midnight and whiskey only when something had gone wrong. He read every document before signing it. He disliked music during meals. He never sat with his back to a door. Damian learned that Evelyn preferred tea but drank coffee because the staff kitchen rarely stocked anything else. She read crime novels in the laundry room during breaks. She hated roses because they reminded her of funeral homes. She counted exits whenever she entered an unfamiliar room. One evening he found her in the library with a book open in her lap. You are allowed to take those to your room. Evelyn looked up. I know. Then why sit here? Because no one stands outside the library door. Damian glanced toward the hall. Cole was visible through the glass panel. He stands nearby. That is not better. Damian entered and closed the doors. Evelyn watched him cross the room. Did you knock? This is not your bedroom. You remember the rule. I remember every agreement I make. He stopped beside her chair. His hand lifted as if to move a strand of hair from her cheek. Evelyn stiffened. Damian lowered it before touching her. The movement was small. It changed something. He stepped back. Your bruise is nearly gone. Yes. Does your jaw still hurt when I chew? Rhodes will return. I do not need another doctor. That was not a question. Evelyn closed her book. You are violating the spirit of our agreement. I agreed not to enter your room and not to touch you without permission. You also agreed to stop deciding everything. No, you asked for that? I did not agree. She stared at him. Damian's mouth moved slightly. It was not a smile, but it came close. You find this amusing. I find you persistent. I learned from you. His gaze rested on her face. That concerns me. Another night, Damian did not appear for dinner. Evelyn waited 20 minutes before returning to her room. At midnight, voices moved through the private corridor. A door closed. Cole spoke quietly into his phone. Evelyn opened her bedroom door. What happened? Cole stood outside Damian's suite. Go back inside. Is he hurt? Cole did not answer. That was enough. Evelyn crossed the corridor and pushed open the door before he could stop her. Damian stood near the fireplace with his shirt unbuttoned. Blood darkened the fabric along his ribs. Victor was opening a medical kit on the table. Damian looked up. You should be asleep. You are bleeding. It is not serious. Evelyn entered. You criticize me when I say that. Victor looked between them. I can leave if this becomes domestic. Damian's stare sent him toward the door. Victor picked up his jacket. The bullet passed through. Clean it before it closes. He looked at Evelyn. Try not to let him decide pain is optional. Then he left. Evelyn approached Damian. Sit. He raised one eyebrow. That sounded like an order. It was. He sat in the armchair. Evelyn opened the medical kit. Her hands remained steady as she cleaned the wound. The bullet had torn a shallow path along his side. Blood covered older scars beneath it. She paused. Some were narrow and pale. Others were thick, uneven marks left by injuries that had never received proper care. What happened to you tonight before tonight? Damian looked toward the fire. My father believed pain produced obedience. Evelyn pressed clean gauze against his skin. Did it know? What did it produce? His eyes met hers. Me. The answer remained between them. Evelyn secured the bandage. Damian watched her hands. You are not afraid of blood. I cleaned enough of it from your floors. Did you ever ask whose it was? No. Why? Because I wanted to keep breathing. He looked at her for a long time. You believed I would kill you for asking questions. I still believe you might kill someone for answering them badly. A quiet laugh left him. It was the first time Evelyn had heard it. The sound was low and brief, but it changed his entire face. She stared. Damian noticed. What nothing? You are lying. You look different when you laugh. His expression closed again. Then forget it. Evelyn gathered the bloodied cloths. No, he watched her leave. The following afternoon, Evelyn sat at the desk in her room reviewing the household expense sheets Mrs. Whitmore had reluctantly provided. She had asked for something useful to do. Damian had told her to choose. For 2 years, Evelyn had carried deliveries, counted linen-checked cabinets, and listened to cooks complain about missing supplies. The numbers did not match what she remembered. The estate had paid for 24 cases of imported wine. Only 16 had reached the cellar. Invoices listed fresh seafood deliveries on days when storms had closed the harbor. A cleaning supplier charged Blackwater House for chemicals Evelyn had never seen. She brought the files to Damian's study. This time she knocked. Come in. Damian looked up as she entered. Victor sat across from him. Evelyn placed the invoices on the desk. You are losing money. Victor almost smiled. Damian leaned back. How much? Nearly $60,000 over 6 months. Victor reached for the papers. Evelyn moved them out of his reach. They are organized by supplier. His eyebrows rose. Damian's gaze sharpened. How did you find this? I know what enters the house. You were a maid. I was invisible. She opened the first file. People speak freely around furniture. Victor took the invoices and read them. After several minutes, his expression changed. She is right. Damian looked at Evelyn. What do you recommend? Recover the money. How I do not care. Victor glanced at her. That answer can become expensive. Evelyn looked at Damian. No one dies over missing wine. Damian's eyes warmed with dark amusement. That is a very specific limitation. It is the first one. He closed the file. You will oversee household accounts with Mrs. Whitmore. Evelyn stared at him. I did not ask for a position. You found one. That does not mean I accepted it. What would make you accept a salary? Victor looked down to hide a smile. Damian remained serious. How much? Evelyn named an amount twice what she had earned as a maid. Damian answered immediately. Agreed. She narrowed her eyes. I should have asked for more. Yes. Can I revise it? No. Victor laughed. Evelyn took the files back. For the first time since moving upstairs, she left the study with something that belonged to her. Not a dress, not protection. Work she had chosen. That evening, Victor remained behind after dinner. Evelyn had already left when he poured himself another drink. You are giving her authority. She earned it. She is learning the house. She already knew the house. Victor watched Damian. The Barlows have been asking about her brother. Damian's expression hardened. How close? A sedan outside his garage. 2 men near his apartment. Move him. Does Evelyn know number? Victor set down his glass. You should tell her. I will tell her when he is secure. She asked for information concerning her brother. She asked for unmonitored calls. You know that is not the same thing. Damian looked toward the closed dining room doors. If I tell her now, she will leave the estate. Perhaps. She will go to him. Yes, she will expose both of them. Victor studied him carefully. You say you are protecting her? I am. You are also deciding which truths she is allowed to survive. Damian's gaze turned cold. My decisions are why she is alive? Victor rose. One day she may decide your protection is the threat. Later that night, Evelyn sat beside the fire in her bedroom with account books spread across the rug. A soft sound came from the corridor. Paper slid beneath her door. She went still. Cole usually announced every delivery. No footsteps followed. Evelyn crossed the room and picked up the folded note. It had been written on the back of a garage receipt. Her breath stopped when she recognized the small metal keychain attached to it. Noah had carried it since high school. 4 words were written in heavy black ink. Barlow has Noah come alone. Evelyn read the message twice, then a third time. The words did not change. The garage receipt trembled between her fingers. Noah's metal keychain pressed cold against her palm. It was a cheap silver wrench he had bought at a school fair when he was 16. The paint had worn away along one edge where his thumb rubbed it whenever he was nervous. He never removed it from his keys. Evelyn crossed the room and grabbed the telephone. She called Noah. The line rang once before transferring to voicemail. She called again. The same result. Her heart began to pound. She dialed the garage. A tired male voice answered. Riverside Auto. This is Evelyn Parker. I need to speak to Noah. A pause followed. Noah hasn't been in. Her fingers tightened around the receiver. Since when? Almost a week. The room tilted. Did he call Sadie had a family emergency? What kind of emergency he didn't say? Who spoke to him? Another pause. Actually, I think someone else called for him. Evelyn stopped breathing. A man, yeah. Said Noah had to leave town for a few days. Did you recognize the voice? No. The manager lowered his own voice. Miss Parker, is something wrong? Evelyn hung up. For several seconds she stood beside the desk with the receiver still in her hand. A family emergency. Someone else had called. Noah's keychain had been pushed beneath her door. Victor had warned Damian that the Barlows were watching him. Damian had said nothing to her. He had allowed her to keep calling Noah as though every conversation were ordinary. Perhaps Noah had already been gone during their last call. Perhaps the voice she heard had been recorded. Perhaps someone stood beside him with a gun while he told her he was fine. Evelyn turned toward the bedroom doors. Cole was outside. Damian was somewhere in the house. She should go to him. The thought came quickly. Then another followed. She remembered Damian beside the fire pouring coffee over the flames after Tyler's name left her mouth. She remembered his voice on the telephone. Keep him conscious until I arrive. If Damian learned the Barlows had Noah, he would not negotiate. He would send men. The Barlows would know they could not survive a direct war with Damian Cross. Noah would become the first thing they destroyed. Evelyn pressed the keychain against her lips. I'm coming, she whispered. She moved before fear could stop her. The green dress fell to the floor. She pulled on the old jeans Mrs. Whitmore had packed from the basement and the gray sweater she had worn when she first arrived at Blackwater House. Her boots were still beneath the wardrobe, scuffed and stained from years of service work. She tied her hair back. From the desk drawer, she took the cash she had saved before Damian paid the debt. $340. Not enough to buy Noah's freedom, but enough for a taxi, a bus, or a desperate lie. She opened the household account file and slid the garage receipt inside it. The address written beneath the message belonged to an abandoned textile building near the Providence River. Evelyn knew the area. Everyone in Providence knew it. Warehouses, empty lots, pawn shops, and buildings whose windows had been covered with plywood since before Noah was born. She found a small kitchen knife in the tray left with her dinner and wrapped it in a hand towel before placing it inside her coat. It would not protect her from armed men. It gave her hands something to do besides shake. Evelyn opened the bedroom door. Cole stood 10 feet down the corridor speaking quietly into his telephone. His back was turned. She closed the door without allowing the latch to click. The private stairs were at the eastern end of the hall. Damian had shown them to her after agreeing to her terms. They could be opened from the 3rd floor, but the lower entrance remained locked. Evelyn slipped inside. The stairwell smelled of dust and stone. She descended one level, then another, moving carefully so her boots did not strike the concrete too loudly. At the 2nd floor landing, voices echoed from the corridor. 2 guards were discussing a vehicle arriving at the western gate. Evelyn waited until their footsteps moved away, then continued downward. She had spent nearly 2 years learning how Blackwater House breathed. The security team changed positions at 2 in the afternoon and again at 10 at night. For several minutes during each transition, the old greenhouse path was visible only from one camera mounted near the eastern wall. That camera had been unreliable for months. Evelyn knew because she had once cleaned the glass after salt from the ocean coated the lens. The image flickered whenever the wind pressed against the loose cable. The service basement was almost empty. The laundry staff had finished the evening load. The kitchen workers were upstairs preparing a late meal for Damian's guests. Pipes groaned behind the walls. Evelyn crossed the corridor and reached the rear door. The deadbolt had been loose since winter. Mrs. Whitmore had requested repairs twice. The security department had not considered it urgent because employees could not reach the outer gates without passing cameras and armed patrols. Evelyn pressed one shoulder against the metal. She lifted the bolt while turning the handle. It resisted. She tried again. The mechanism gave with a hard clack. Evelyn froze. No footsteps followed. She opened the door and stepped into the storm. Rain struck her face immediately. The wind tore at her coat and drove cold water down the back of her neck. She ran toward the greenhouse. Mud pulled at her boots. Wet branches struck her sleeves. The estate lights blurred through the rain-pale circles floating above the dark grounds. She kept her body low beneath the hedges. For 2 years she had moved through Blackwater House without being noticed. Now every skill she had used to survive was helping her escape the man who claimed to protect her. She reached the greenhouse. Several panes of glass had been broken during the previous winter. The iron frame groaned whenever the wind shifted. Vines had grown through the shattered roof, turning the structure into a skeleton covered in leaves. Beyond it stood the eastern wall, 10 feet of stone topped with black iron spikes. An old oak tree grew close enough that one branch crossed above the wall. Evelyn grabbed the lowest section of bark. Her wet hands slipped. She tried again, finding a groove with her boot. The knife pressed against her ribs inside the coat. She climbed. Rainwater ran into her eyes. Her arms burned as she pulled herself toward the branch. She was halfway up when a voice came through the storm. "Where are you going?" Evelyn lost her grip. She fell backward and landed in the mud. Pain moved through her hip, but she pushed herself onto her elbows. Damian stood beneath the trees. He wore a black raincoat over dark clothes. Water ran through his hair and down the hard lines of his face. Cole stood behind him with 2 security men. Victor waited near the greenhouse. None of them looked surprised. Damian walked toward her. He did not appear angry. His disappointment was quieter and somehow more devastating. "Did you believe you could leave my house without my knowing?" Evelyn climbed to her knees. "They have Noah." Damian stopped several feet away. "No." She pulled the receipt from her coat and held it toward him. "The Barlows sent this." Rain darkened the paper. Damian did not look at it. "I know what it says." The word struck her harder than the fall. "You knew I knew a message had been delivered." Evelyn pushed herself to her feet. "Then why are we standing here? Because Noah is safe. You do not know that. I know exactly where he is." She stared at him. Damian continued. "He is in a protected suite at the Harbor Hotel in Providence." Evelyn could barely hear him over the rain. What Cole moved him 6 days ago. She looked at Cole. His expression remained controlled, but he did not meet her eyes. 6 days. Damian stepped closer. The Barlows had men watching the garage. Noah agreed to move when Cole showed him the surveillance photographs. "You took my brother. I protected him. You did not tell me. You would have gone to him. He is my family. and you would have led the Barlows directly to both of you. Evelyn tried to move past him. I need to see him. Damian caught her upper arms. She twisted violently. Let me go. Stop. Do not touch me. His hands released her immediately. Evelyn stumbled backward. The instant obedience only made her angrier. You watched me call him. He was allowed to answer. Allowed. Damian's face tightened. He agreed not to reveal the location. Because you told him I knew. Silence answered her. Evelyn stared at him. You told him I knew. I told him you would be informed when the threat was contained. That is not the same thing. No. The admission was calm. Evelyn looked at the receipt in her hand. Who sent this? No one spoke. Her eyes moved to Victor. He stood beneath the edge of the greenhouse roof, rain dripping from his coat. Something in his expression gave her the answer. You. Victor stepped forward. I arranged the message. Evelyn felt cold move through her entire body. You stole Noah's keychain. It was recovered from his apartment. You made me believe they had him. I needed to understand how you would respond under pressure. Damian turned toward Victor. His voice sharpened. That is enough. No. Evelyn's voice cut through the rain. She approached Victor. You pushed that note beneath my door. I gave it to someone who could enter the floor. Who, that does not matter. It matters to me. Victor's face remained hard. The Barlows already know you are important to Damian. They will use your brother. They will use fear. They will send messages designed to separate you from security. So you decided to practice. I needed to know whether you would alert us or run. You wanted to prove I was weak. I wanted to prove you were dangerous. To whom Victor looked at Damian. To him. Evelyn followed his gaze. Damian stood motionless beneath the rain. The truth formed slowly. You knew Victor intended to test me. Damian did not answer. Did you know yes? The word was almost lost beneath the wind. Evelyn walked toward him. You knew someone was going to make me believe Noah had been taken. I knew Noah was protected. I did not. Damian's eyes held hers. I was close enough to stop you. You let me read that note. I needed to know what you would do. Evelyn laughed once. There was no humor in it. You needed to know whether your prisoner would run when the door opened. You are not my prisoner. I climbed a wall because I believed my brother was dying, and I stopped you before you left the grounds. That does not make this better. Damian's voice lowered. If the Barlows send a real message, you cannot obey it. You could have told me that. You already knew. No, I knew you wanted obedience. The rain moved between them. Evelyn pressed both hands against his chest and shoved. Damian barely moved. You made me believe he was going to die. I knew he was safe. She struck his chest again. I did not. Her voice broke. You stood inside that house while I called a phone that no one answered. Damian reached for her, then stopped before touching her. Evelyn turned away from him. She faced Victor. You wanted to know what I would do. Victor's jaw tightened. Yes. She walked toward him and slapped him across the face. The sound cut through the storm. One guard shifted. Damian raised a hand without looking away from Evelyn. The man stopped. Victor's head had turned slightly with the blow. A red mark appeared along his cheek. He faced her again. You should have gone to Damian. You should have stayed away from my brother. You would have walked into an ambush. I thought he was alone. That is why you are a liability. Evelyn stepped closer. No, that is why you used him. Victor's eyes hardened. You think this world will respect your feelings. I think men like you use that world as an excuse to become cruel. Damian moved between them. Cole, bring the car. Evelyn looked at him. I am seeing Noah. Yes, now. Yes. No one spoke during the drive to Providence. Evelyn sat in the rear of the black sedan beside Damian. Cole drove. Victor remained at Blackwater House. Rain moved across the windows in silver waves. Damian's coat lay folded beside him. His shirt was wet at the shoulders. Mud marked the cuffs of his trousers. Evelyn stayed pressed against the opposite door. After 20 minutes, Damian spoke. You could have been taken before reaching the highway. She looked through the window. You could have told me the truth before I reached the wall. I intended to tell you tonight, after the test. Yes. She turned toward him. Do you hear yourself? His expression remained controlled. I hear you. No. You hear a problem you want to solve. You were in danger, so you lied. I withheld information. That is the kind of sentence men use when they want dishonesty to sound intelligent. Damian's jaw tightened. Evelyn continued. You decided what Noah could know. You decided what I could know. You let Victor terrify me because you believed fear would teach me to trust you. I believed experience would teach you not to answer an enemy's summons. All it taught me is that the people inside your house can hurt me whenever you decide the result is useful. Damian looked away. It was a small movement. Evelyn had never seen him retreat from a truth before. The Harbor Hotel stood near the Providence waterfront, its upper windows shining through the rain. Cole drove into an underground garage. 2 men opened a private elevator. Damian and Evelyn rode to the 12th floor in silence. A guard waited outside a corner suite. When the door opened, Noah stood beside the window. He wore sweatpants and a clean shirt. A plate of untouched food sat on the table. His hair was longer than Evelyn remembered. For 1 second, neither sibling moved. Then Noah crossed the room. Evelyn threw her arms around him. He held her tightly. You're all right. I'm fine. She touched his face, his shoulders, his arms. Did they hurt you? No. Did anyone threaten you? No. Her hands continued searching for injuries. Noah caught them. Evie, I'm okay. She looked behind him. 2 security men stood near the adjoining room. A laptop, several books, and tools from the garage covered the table. Damian's men had not placed Noah in a cell. They had built a temporary life around him. Evelyn looked at her brother. Why didn't you tell me Noah glanced at Damian? They said you knew. Damian did not move. Evelyn closed her eyes. What exactly did they tell you that the Barlows were following me? Mr. Mercer showed me pictures. They said Damian had already spoken to you and that you wanted me somewhere safe. I did not know. Noah's expression changed. You didn't know. He looked toward Damian. You told me she agreed. Cole answered from the doorway. I said she would agree. Noah stared at him. That is not what I heard. Cole lowered his eyes. Damian stepped into the room. The responsibility is mine. Evelyn faced him. Yes. Noah looked between them. What happened? Evelyn removed the wet receipt from her coat and placed it on the table. Victor sent this to my room. Noah saw the keychain. His face lost color. I thought they had taken you. Noah picked it up. This was in my apartment, I know. He looked at Damian. You let her believe that Damian's voice remained steady. I allowed Victor to test her response. Noah stared at him with open disgust. You people are insane. One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. Noah stepped closer to Damian. She has spent years thinking everyone she loves is about to be taken from her. Evelyn touched his arm. Noah, no. He looked at his sister. You do this too. She went still. You hide things. You decide what I can handle. You tell yourself it is protection. The words wounded because they were true. Noah continued. You both keep calling it safety while everyone else loses the right to choose. Evelyn looked at Damian. For the first time, she understood why Noah had grown angry during their phone calls. She had controlled him with fear because she believed fear kept him alive. Damian had done the same to her with greater power and more dangerous consequences. Noah sat on the edge of the sofa. I want to go home, Damian answered. Your apartment is not secure. Then tell me the options. The demand sounded like Evelyn. Damian studied him. You can remain here. You can move to another property with security. Or Cole can take you to a location of your choosing provided protection remains nearby. Noah looked at Evelyn. That is a choice. She nodded. Yes, I'll stay tonight. Damian turned toward the door. Evelyn followed him into the hall. Not yet. He stopped. The guards moved farther away. Evelyn closed the suite door behind her. You do not get to leave after solving the room. Damian faced her. What do you need the truth? You have it. No. I have the part that became impossible to hide. His eyes darkened. What do you believe I concealed that you wanted the test? I allowed it. Why? Because Victor was correct about one thing. Evelyn waited. You are the easiest way to reach me. The confession came without softness. If an enemy threatens Noah, you will act before you think. If they tell you to come alone, you will go. You proved that tonight. And you proved I cannot trust the messages inside your own house. Damian looked toward the window at the end of the hall. "I did not expect the note to affect you so strongly." Evelyn stared at him. "You knew my entire life was built around keeping Noah alive. Yes. You knew I inherited a debt because men placed his school schedule on my table. Yes. You knew I spent 2 years believing one missed payment could put him in a grave." Damian's silence became an answer. "And you did not expect it to affect me strongly." His expression shifted. Regret was unfamiliar on him. It did not soften his face, it made him appear older. "I miscalculated, you hurt me." The words left Evelyn quietly. Damian's eyes returned to hers. "I know. No one touched my face. No one pushed me into a wall." She pressed her hand against her chest. "You still hurt me." He accepted the accusation without defense. Evelyn stepped closer. "You do not get to protect me by deciding what I am allowed to know. I believed the truth would make you leave the estate. It might have. The Barlows were watching Noah. Then you should have trusted me enough to explain the danger. I do not trust danger to wait while people become reasonable. That is not the same as trusting me." Damian said nothing. Evelyn nodded. "That is what I thought." They returned to Blackwater House before dawn. The storm had weakened, leaving the estate beneath a layer of fog. Evelyn did not go to her room. She walked directly to Damian's study. Victor was waiting inside. A bruise had begun to form along his cheek where she struck him. Cole closed the doors. Damian stood behind his desk. Victor looked at Evelyn. "You endangered yourself. You entered my private floor and used my brother. I tested a vulnerability. You created one." Victor's eyes narrowed. "The Barlows will do worse. Then I need information training and a voice in decisions, not lies." Damian leaned against the desk. "What consequence do you want?" Victor looked at him. "You are asking her, yes." Evelyn had expected Damian to punish Victor in private, perhaps remove him, perhaps spill more blood in her name. Instead, he placed the decision before her. The power felt heavier than she expected. She looked at Victor. He was dangerous, but he had also been honest about what he believed. Killing him would not undo the terror of the note. Victor keeps his position. Surprise moved through the room. "He has no authority over Noah or me." Victor's expression hardened. Evelyn continued. "All security information involving my brother comes directly to me. No tests, no false messages, no decisions made in my name." Victor looked at Damian. Damian gave no reaction. "And if he uses Noah again," Evelyn said, "he leaves the organization." Victor's voice was cold. "You do not have the authority to remove me," Damian answered. "She does now." Victor stared at him. "This is a mistake." Damian stepped away from the desk. "No." The mistake was believing fear would produce loyalty. His eyes moved briefly toward Evelyn. "I should have known better." Victor absorbed the words. Then he looked at Evelyn. "You went toward danger without a plan." "Yes. You would have been captured, probably. You still believe I was wrong. I believe you were right about my weakness." Victor's brow tightened. Evelyn continued. "You were wrong to believe cruelty was the only way to reveal it." For several seconds, the only sound came from the fire. Victor finally nodded. "Understood." He left the study. Cole followed, closing the doors behind him. Evelyn and Damian remained alone. The room looked almost exactly as it had when he first saw her bruise. The same fire, the same brass lamp, the same desk between them. Damian spoke first. "You should sleep." "No, Evelyn. I am leaving Blackwater House." His face became still. "When today?" "The Barlows remain active. I know. They know your name. I know. They may follow you. Then give me security information. Give me a number to call. Teach me what to look for. That is not enough. It has to be." Damian walked around the desk. "You are safer here. I am safer from everyone except the people who decide they know what is best for me." His gaze sharpened. "I admitted the mistake. You admitted a miscalculation. What do you want me to say that you were wrong?" Damian stopped. The word seemed more difficult for him than any threat. Evelyn waited. He looked at the bruise that had almost disappeared from her face. "I was wrong." She believed the statement cost him something. It was not enough. "I still have to leave." His hands closed slowly at his sides. If you cross those gates, I cannot control what happens around you. That is the point. You think freedom will keep you alive. No. Evelyn met his eyes. I think it will tell me whether I am staying because I choose you or because you removed every other choice. Damian's expression changed at the final word. Not because she had confessed love. She had not, because she had admitted that choosing him was possible. He turned away and walked toward the windows. The Atlantic was almost invisible through the fog. What do you need? Nothing from you. That is not realistic. I need my identification. My old clothes, access to my money, a safe place Noah and I can use while the Barlows are being watched. Damian remained facing the glass. And if I provide those things, I leave. For how long, I do not know. His reflection watched her in the window. And if you do not return, then you keep the promise you made. Which one? That Noah remains protected. That you do not follow me. That you do not decide my life from a distance. Damian lowered his head. When he turned back, the control had returned to his face, but it no longer looked invincible. Agreed. At noon, a black car waited in front of the estate. Evelyn stood at the top of the stone steps wearing her old gray coat. Cole placed her suitcase in the trunk. Inside the car was a leather folder. Her identification documents rested inside it. Beneath them lay the deed to a small apartment in Providence transferred into her name. A bank statement showed enough money to support herself while finding work. The original Barlow debt paper had been stamped, signed, and cut through the center. A telephone number appeared on a plain white card. No name. She knew whose number it was. Evelyn closed the folder. I said I did not want your money. Damian stood several feet away. It is compensation for the debt you paid on behalf of a man who should never have been allowed to bind you. That sounds like another decision. The apartment can be sold. The money can be returned. None of it requires you to come back. She looked toward the gates. They stood open. No guards blocked the road. No vehicle waited to follow. Evelyn turned to Damian. What happens if I leave? Noah remains protected at a distance. And me, I do not interfere. What if I call? I answer. What if I never call? His eyes rested on her face. Then I respect the choice. The answer hurt more than she expected. Evelyn opened the car door. Damian did not move. She looked at Blackwater House. The windows reflected the pale sky. The stone walls appeared exactly as they had on the day she arrived. Only Evelyn had changed. She entered the car. As Cole closed the door, Damian spoke through the open window. You once asked what replaced your father's debt. Evelyn looked at him. Nothing replaced it. His voice remained calm, but the words carried the weight of surrender. You owe me nothing. The car moved down the drive. Evelyn watched Damian through the rear window. He remained on the steps as the distance grew between them. He did not order the driver to stop. He did not close the gates. He did not send men after her. Blackwater House disappeared behind the trees. For the first time in years, Evelyn Parker was moving through the world without a debt deciding her destination, without a uniform defining her place, without a locked door disguised as protection. The road ahead was wet, uncertain, and dangerous. It was also hers. Evelyn repeated that thought as the car carried her away from Blackwater House. For the first 10 miles, she expected headlights to appear behind them. No black security vehicle emerged from the fog. No call came through the driver's radio. Damian kept his word. That should have brought relief. Instead, the empty road felt like a silence she did not know how to fill. The apartment in Providence stood on the 3rd floor of a narrow brick building near the river. It was small, clean, and recently renovated. Sunlight entered through 2 windows facing the street. The kitchen held new appliances. Fresh towels waited in the bathroom. Nothing had been chosen by her. Evelyn stood in the center of the living room with her suitcase beside her and felt the familiar pressure of another life arranged before she arrived. The driver placed the keys on the counter. Mr. Cross said the lease and deed are in the folder. I know. There is food in the refrigerator. I did not ask for food. The driver lowered his eyes. No, ma'am. Evelyn closed them briefly. Please do not call me that. He nodded and left. The lock clicked behind him. Evelyn waited. No one remained outside the door. She checked through the window. The car drove away without another vehicle replacing it. She was alone. For the first time in nearly 2 years, no bell controlled the start of her day. No schedule waited beside her bed. No guard stood beyond the wall. No debt collector expected an envelope. Freedom arrived without ceremony. It looked like an empty room. Evelyn opened the refrigerator. Breadfruit, eggs, milk, and enough prepared meals to last a week filled the shelves. Damian had remembered that she disliked roses. There were no flowers anywhere in the apartment. That detail angered her more than it should have. She closed the refrigerator and called Noah. He answered immediately. "Where are you at the apartment? Are you alone?" "Yes." "Are you sure Evelyn looked toward the windows?" "I checked." Noah was quiet. "Do you want me to come over?" "Yes." The word left her before pride could interfere. "I'll be there soon." He arrived 40 minutes later carrying a paper bag from a bakery. When Evelyn opened the door, he studied her face as if searching for new injuries. She pulled him into a hug. Noah held her tightly. "You really left?" "Yes." "Did he let you?" Evelyn released him. "I told him I was leaving. That was not my question." She looked at her brother. "No, it wasn't." Noah entered the apartment. He placed the bag on the counter and walked through each room, checking closets and windows. "You have been around his security team too long," Evelyn said. "No, I have spent too many years being told everything is fine." She accepted the correction. They ate pastries at the small kitchen table. Noah told her about the hotel, the guards, and the photographs Cole had shown him. 2 men had watched the garage for 4 days. Another had followed him to a grocery store. "Did they threaten you?" Evelyn asked. "No." "Did Damian speak to you once?" "What did he say?" Noah brushed sugar from his fingers. "He said the Barlows would not touch me." "That sounds like him." "He also said you would blame yourself if they did." Evelyn looked down. Noah continued. "He understands you. He studies people. That is not the same thing." "No, but he understands you anyway." Evelyn stood and carried the empty plates to the sink. "He manipulated me." "Yes." "He moved you without telling me." "Yes." "He allowed Victor to make me believe you had been taken." "Yes." Noah leaned back. "He also opened the gates." Evelyn turned. "That does not erase what he did. I did not say it did." "Then what are you saying that you keep describing him like you need me to tell you not to go back?" "I am not going back." Noah watched her. "All right." His easy agreement irritated her. "You do not believe me. I believe you mean it right now." Evelyn rinsed the plates. Noah stood and joined her beside the sink. "You spent years protecting me without asking what I wanted." She shut off the water. "I know. You lied because you thought the truth would put me in danger. I know. You controlled where I went and who I spoke to. I was trying to keep you alive. So was he." Evelyn stared at him. Noah raised both hands. "I am not defending the test. Victor was cruel and Damian should have stopped him. But you and Damian have the same worst habit. What habit you both decide love gives you permission." The word remained in the kitchen. "Love." Evelyn looked away first. Noah picked up his coat. "I'm going back to the hotel tonight." "Cole says the threat is still active. You trust him. I trust the photographs." He stopped at the door. "Figure out what you want before you decide what Damian deserves." After he left, the apartment became silent again. Evelyn spent the next 4 days building a life. She opened a bank account in her own name. She bought groceries with her own money. She walked through Providence without an escort, though she checked every reflection for men following her. She applied for 2 accounting positions and 1 administrative job at a hotel. At night, she slept with a chair beneath the bedroom doorknob. Freedom did not remove fear. It only made fear her responsibility. The telephone number Damian had given her remained on the kitchen counter. She never called. Every morning she moved the card to a drawer. Every evening she took it out again. She told herself she missed the security of Blackwater House. Then she remembered Damian laughing while she cleaned the wound on his ribs. She told herself she missed the library. Then she remembered the way he lowered his hand when she stiffened. She told herself she missed having useful work. Then she remembered his face when she demanded a salary. None of those memories explained the hollow feeling that entered the apartment each night. On the 5th evening, someone knocked. Evelyn froze beside the kitchen counter. 3 steady knocks. Not Damian. He would have called. She approached the door without making a sound and looked through the peephole. Victor stood in the hall. A bruise still marked his cheek. Evelyn did not open the door. "What do you want to speak?" You know how to use a telephone. This conversation should not be recorded. She gripped the handle. Is Noah safe? Yes. Is Damian? Victor did not answer. Evelyn opened the door. Blood stained the cuff of his white shirt. Come inside. Victor entered and checked the windows before removing his coat. His left arm was wrapped in a temporary bandage. What happened? The Barlows attacked one of our shipments near the docks. Where is Damian Blackwater House? Is he injured? Victor looked at her. Yes. The room narrowed. How badly a bullet entered below his shoulder. Rhodes removed it. Then why are you here? Victor's face remained controlled, but exhaustion had pulled deep lines around his eyes. Howard Barlow believes your departure weakened Damian. Did it? Yes. The honesty struck her. Victor continued. Barlow sent men toward Noah's hotel. They were stopped before reaching the lobby. Evelyn felt the blood leave her face. Why did no one call me? Damian ordered us not to contact you unless Noah was in immediate danger. He was. The men never entered the building. He still should have told me. Yes. Evelyn studied Victor. That answer was new. Why are you telling me now? Because Damian is keeping his promise. That does not explain why you broke it. Victor sat at the kitchen table. When I tested you, I believed you were a threat to the organization. You still do. Yes, then leave. I also believe Damian has become dangerous to himself. Evelyn folded her arms. He was dangerous before I met him. Not like this. Victor looked toward the card on the counter. He stood in front of the Barlow warehouse because he believed their shooters would aim at him instead of the men protecting your brother. Evelyn's chest tightened. He was shot because of Noah. He was shot because he does not know how to protect something without placing himself between it and the weapon. She looked away. Victor continued. He has not asked for you. Then why come? Because I misjudged one thing. Evelyn met his eyes. What, you are not weak because you care about your brother. Damian is not weak because he cares about you. Victor rose. But both of you become reckless when fear replaces trust. He placed a sealed envelope on the table. Security reports involving Noah. Your condition was that they come directly to you. Evelyn looked at the envelope. You are honoring my authority. I am honoring an agreement. He moved toward the door. Victor. He stopped. Is Damian going to live? Yes. The answer came too slowly. Will he recover if he remains in bed? Evelyn almost laughed. He will not. No. Victor opened the door. He ordered us not to bring you back. I know. That is why I did not ask. After he left, Evelyn stood alone with the security reports. She read every page. The Barlows had followed Noah for weeks. They had photographed Blackwater House. They had documented Evelyn's old work schedule. Her name appeared in conversations intercepted by Damian's men. Victor had been right. She was a vulnerability. Damian had also been right. The world outside the gates was dangerous. Neither truth gave him the right to own her. Neither truth erased what he had done. But freedom was not the absence of danger. It was the ability to choose where to stand when danger arrived. Evelyn packed before dawn. She did not call Damian. She called Noah. I'm going to Newport. Noah was silent. Are you asking permission? No good. I need you to remain at the hotel. I will. And if anyone changes your location, they tell both of us. Agreed. Evelyn drove herself. The storm had cleared, leaving the highway beneath a pale morning sky. When Blackwater House appeared above the cliffs, it no longer looked like a fortress built to keep her inside. It looked like a place she had survived. The gates opened when the camera recognized the car. No one stopped her. Cole waited beneath the front entrance. His injured arm rested in a sling. You are on the authorized list, he said. I should have been from the beginning. Yes, the answer surprised her. Where is he? In his study. Dr. Rhodes told him to remain in bed. He moved to the study before the doctor left the driveway. Evelyn entered the house. The staff lowered their eyes as she crossed the main hall. Mrs. Whitmore approached from the dining room. Miss Parker. Evelyn. The housekeeper stopped. Evelyn held her gaze. Please call me Evelyn. Mrs. Whitmore nodded. Evelyn. It was a small thing. It felt like a door opening. Evelyn walked toward the eastern wing. No guard blocked the study. She knocked once and entered. Damian stood behind his desk. His left arm was secured against his chest. His skin was pale. Dark shadows marked the space beneath his eyes. He looked at her as if pain had altered his vision. "You came back." "I did." He straightened. The movement pulled at the wound. Evelyn saw it in his face. "Sit down. You are no longer employed here." "That does not make the order less sensible." Damian sat. Evelyn closed the doors behind her. He watched every step as she crossed the room. "Is Noah safe?" "Yes." "Then why are you here?" "Because Victor gave me the reports." Damian's expression hardened. "He disobeyed me. He honored my condition. You were not supposed to be brought into this. I was already in it." Evelyn stopped before the desk. "You do not get to turn me into the reason for a war and then hide the war from me. I did not start this because of you. No. But you changed the rules because of me." Damian said nothing. Evelyn continued. "I left because I needed to know whether I could live without your protection. Can you?" "Yes." The word hurt him. She saw it. "And I came back because living without you is not the same as being free of you." Damian's eyes darkened. "You should choose your words carefully. I have spent 5 days choosing them." She placed the apartment keys on his desk. "I am not returning as your maid. No. I am not returning as your prisoner. No. I am not returning as an investment." His jaw tightened. "I should never have allowed Rhodes to use that word. I am not returning as your property." Damian held her gaze. "You never were. You believed I was." "Yes." The admission filled the room. Evelyn had expected denial. His honesty made it possible to continue. "If I stay, I oversee the household accounts and employee welfare." "Agreed." "No member of your family touches an employee without consequences." "Agreed." "Consequences decided after the employee is heard." Damian paused. Then he nodded. "Agreed." "No decisions involving Noah are made without informing both of us." "Agreed. My room remains mine." "Yes. You knock. Yes. You do not touch me unless I allow it." His eyes remained fixed on hers. "Yes. And the gates remain open." Damian leaned back slightly. "For you, for everyone who is not being held for a crime, that will create security problems. Then solve them." A faint shadow touched his mouth. Evelyn pointed toward it. "Do not smile. I am not finished." The shadow disappeared. She placed the private elevator key beside the apartment keys. "I keep this." Damian looked at the silver key. "You came prepared. I learned from you." He lifted it and placed it in her hand. Accepted. Evelyn closed her fingers around it. Damian watched her. "What happens if I violate the agreement? I leave. And if I attempt to stop you, you will prove that every word you said at the gates was a lie." His face became still. "I will not stop you." Evelyn moved around the desk. She stood several feet from him. "Why did you care?" Damian looked toward the fire. "I told you. You told me Tyler attacked someone under your roof. He did. You did not buy the debts of every frightened employee. You did not move them upstairs. You did not bleed at the docks for their families." Damian was silent. Evelyn waited. He finally looked at her. "I noticed you before the bruise." Her breath slowed. "When the first winter you worked here, I never spoke to you. You gave your dinner to the gardener after he became ill." Evelyn remembered an elderly man sitting beside the boiler, too weak to climb the stairs. "You corrected mistakes in the household accounts and allowed Mrs. Whitmore to take credit." "I did not want attention. You worked additional shifts every week. The Barlows increased their demands." "How did you know I know what happens in my house?" The old answer sounded different now. Damian continued. "I saw you. I believed leaving you unseen was kinder." Evelyn looked at the fading scar near his shoulder. "Then you saw the bruise." His eyes became cold. "Someone mistook your silence for permission, and you lost control." "Yes." No excuse. No polished explanation. Only truth. Damian stood slowly. He remained several feet away. "I have spent my life building walls around everything I control. You still use that word too often. I know." His voice lowered. "Then I found something inside those walls that I could not bear to lose." Evelyn felt the weight of the elevator key in her hand. "You nearly lost me because you were afraid to let me choose." "I know. You are dangerous. Yes, you are controlling. Yes, you frighten me." Pain entered his expression, but he did not look away. I know, Evelyn crossed the distance between them, but I am no longer afraid to leave. Damian closed his eyes briefly. That was the surrender she had needed. She touched the uninjured side of his face. His skin was warm beneath her palm. He did not move until she guided him closer. If I stay, she whispered, it is because I choose you. Damian opened his eyes. Then choose. Evelyn kissed him. For one suspended second he remained still. Then his hand settled at her waist. Not pulling, not claiming, waiting. Evelyn moved closer. The kiss carried anger, fear, and every unfinished conversation between them. Damian responded with a restraint that cost him more than force ever would. When they separated, Evelyn kept her forehead against his. You are still a monster, I know. His voice was rough. But I am your monster. Evelyn drew back enough to look at him. No. Damian's expression darkened. She held his gaze. You are the monster I chose. That does not make me yours. A slow, dangerous smile appeared. Is there a difference? There is now. Several weeks later, Evelyn entered the main kitchen carrying the revised payroll sheets. The room did not fall silent. Daniel Ruiz greeted her from beside the ovens. Maria complained about a missing linen shipment. Mrs. Whitmore handed Evelyn a supplier invoice without lowering her voice. A young maid dropped a glass near the pantry. It shattered across the stone. The girl froze. I'm sorry, she whispered. Please, I can pay for it. Evelyn crouched beside her. No one pays in blood for broken glass. She helped gather the larger pieces. Mrs. Whitmore watched from the pantry. The words traveled through the kitchen without becoming a warning. They became a rule. That evening, Evelyn stood on the terrace overlooking the Atlantic. The ocean remained violent beneath the cliffs. Blackwater House remained full of secrets. Damian joined her but stopped at her side without touching her. Evelyn looked at him. He waited. She placed her hand in his. The gates below stood open. The elevator key rested in her pocket. Evelyn Parker had once believed survival meant becoming invisible. She had lowered her eyes, swallowed her fear, and allowed powerful men to mistake silence for surrender. Damian Cross had seen the bruise beneath her hair and nearly destroyed the world because of it. He gave her protection. He gave her a beautiful cage. Evelyn forced him to open the door. She did not become queen because a mafia boss claimed her. She became queen when she learned that safety without choice was only another form of captivity. She stayed because she could leave. And when Damian tightened his fingers around hers, he understood that the woman beside him was not something he owned. She was the only person in Blackwater House powerful enough to make the monster ask permission.